Howdy! I'm Dan.
And I'm Keith.
And we are doing okay, and we are taking you back in the day. Our nostalgia show. We're very nostalgic for creepy kids like that. Remember when you were a creepy kid like that?
I was never blonde.
Yep, that's true.
As most of these kids in the commercials were. Mm-hmm. But I did have, not this iconic cut, but the other iconic cut, which was the bowl cut.
Oh, very nice. So...
my hair was a lot straighter back then.
On Doing Okay, we're a new channel here. We have a myriad of different shows. Back in the day is the show where we're going to talk about things we're nostalgic for, or even things maybe we aren't nostalgic for, but things from the past. Mm-hmm. So some topics might be like Pokemon, or old movies, or old music, or old clothing thingy-majiggies. But today we're talking about fads from our childhood.
Or adolescence also.
Yeah.
Things that have come and gone and not stood the test of time. They burned hot and quick, yes, and ever so interestingly. So a lot of great things.
Yes.
Do you remember KB Toys?
I remember KB Toys.
And all its incarnations? Is this where you got this?
I believe,
they had these.
Yeah.
They had
he doesn't play anymore.
KB Toys.
He doesn't play anymore. I hope the kids know about these weird hamster kung fu fighters, but they stopped being just kung fu fighters. They became lots of different myriad.
I don't even know if that was the original. I mean, they had different ones. They had the hamsters that were the kung fu fighters. I think they had like construction workers. Like, I think they just had all different
lots of different things. And my memory, he was first, but I might be wrong. So we're talking about fads from the 90s and early 2000s. And before we start, I want to tell Keith how I came up with this topic.
Okay.
Have you heard of, in modern day, apparently now it's a fad to have fidget, what's it called? Fidget spinners and fidget cubes.
Yes.
You have.
I've seen fidget toys.
Yeah.
Like desk, like when you're working at your desk and you just have these objects that have like, it's basically like a Bop It. It's like a mechanical Bop It with no reward. It's just something to touch. It's kind of like those puzzle games that they used to have. There were like these metal pieces that were like interlocked and you had to like unhook them, and there was only one way they could go. Yeah. But it's like you have this object that has like spinners and twisties and rollies.
They come in many varieties. Yeah. I just recently saw there's like for like $3 there's like a Batman one that spins around that's like a batarang. It's just interesting to me. So they're like advertising it it's for like people with like ADHD.
The working professional.
No, it's for like kids. They're aiming them at kids, for like kids with ADHD and autism and stuff, because they were like very fidgety to like calm them down.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I've seen them more aimed at like you're at your desk, you're typing or whatever, you're typing in one hand, you have something, or you're like reading something to. Yeah. It's kind of like doodling in your notebook at school. Yeah. It's like you're doing this sort of like physical activity. Yeah, it's like releasing the tension and the stress, and you're able to kind of split your mind and do one thing mechanically and do something else mentally. Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool thing, and maybe I'll get one of those and we'll review it on the show. But as far as olden timers go,
this iPad.
Yeah, look at this old-fashioned iPad. It's an iPad Air 2. That's like a couple generations behind.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So the first thing we thought about was Livestrong bracelets.
Yes, and this is something that Dan said about probably 2 hours ago when we were still editing some other things, and this blew my mind because I had completely forgot about Livestrong bracelets. And I'm pretty sure that I had the original yellow one. Yeah. But also they had all these other just like...
oh, they became so... They were like the epitome of a fad, right?
Right.
Like they burned so hot and fast.
So if you guys don't know what a Livestrong bracelet, basically it's a like rubberized, like I think it's neoprene. They were like ½ an inch wide. There were just these bracelets. So it was the bright yellow one, it was Livestrong, and it was actually Lance Armstrong. Yeah. And I think it was like...
and they were for charity.
It was for charity.
At least those are the original ones.
Back when people didn't hate him, you know? Then they just had these other things. They were just like sayings like courage.
Yeah, they would have like imprints of different words. Yeah. And I remember, I think our middle school like gave out some... people really steered into it. And it's interesting that it feels like bracelets in general are like an ongoing fad. Whatever kind of like I'm wearing these silly bands.
Or more specifically, a cheap bracelet.
The things that you can collect are big fad things. So I have these silly bands, Spider-Man.
Off-branded.
So they weren't like they make little images. If you can actually do it. Yeah, it's a weird ass Spider-Man. It doesn't even look. It looks like a gun. But
No, Spider-Man. I'm sorry. This is a monkey wrench. Tell me this is not a monkey wrench. What is this supposed to be?
I don't know. They're old.
This is a monkey. This is exactly what I would expect a monkey wrench to be.
It's supposed to be his leg or something. Who even knows?
That's a monkey wrench.
It's supposed to be that. He's kicking out, I think.
No, it's
not.
not.
It's good stuff.
How old are these?
These are pretty dang old. These are at least like 7, 8 years old.
So as you can tell, the thing about rubber is it will lose its shape.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, it's interesting because...
How is this one still... This one is still actually...
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, the gravity wasn't doing it any favors, but if I just... There you go. You
silly. It's a silly band.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a smart thing. And I think an interesting topic when you're talking about fads are how much of them are calculated, right? I mean, Livestrong was obviously for charity,
right.
But I feel like in some ways, or maybe even just the way other people took it in.
It was meant to go viral.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's like pre-internet viral, but it's. I mean, we have very different ideas.
But
well, I mean,
different context. Before that was a
pre-modern internet. Yeah. And it's like the things spread in such a different way then. And I'm interested in how widespread some of these things were. Like, are we going to talk about things that people are like, oh, in my area that wasn't that big a deal?
So the thing about it also is, it's like there's the element of social envy with these, even though it's like cheap and consumable. Like I remember being like, oh, I gotta get one, I gotta get these, and it goes through phases. The first phase is you're casually aware of these things existing, and then you see your friends have them, and then you have to have them, so you get them, and then all these different other versions come out, and then it slowly starts being like, well, then now the local bank at the fair gets in the way, you know. And then it becomes like advertisers, when you go to places, they just have them with the logo and they're a little bit different, they're not as good. Yeah. And that's really sort of, they spiral downwards. Then it starts to be
then it becomes like, why are you still wearing that? Right.
But it's more than why you're still wearing that. It's like, it's technically still a fad. Yeah. But it's a fad for different people. Yeah. It still exists, but it's not the original movement. It's been appropriated to old people.
And it's interesting because this is like an off-brand hipster idea in some way, because I think it's mass consumer hipsterdom in some way, right? Yeah. Because I definitely think that was like what was considered normal, was that you would move on and that some people would lag behind.
Right.
But it's interesting because it's also, are all these things specifically aimed at kids? And is it like, for one thing, I do want to say, silly bands are definitely meant to be a follow-up to Livestrong. Yeah. Like, that was completely calculated, but...
So aimed at kids, I think that, yes, obviously since the 60s, somebody figured out, hey, kids are a market. And they tapped into that. So I think that things like Livestrong, although they have,
Livestrong is a crossover hit.
Right, because it's charity, so it's also like a famous cyclist, so there's a wider appeal, but the whole thing is like, it's a rubber yellow bracelet, until it has to become, you have to become aware of it because of its color. Yeah. But like some normal person is not going to just want this bright yellow thing. Yeah. It's ostentatious and gaudy, and I'm losing my voice randomly.
He's so choked up about the Livestrong.
And so it's like gaudy, until like people wear it, and the people that are going to wear it are going to be like, kids are like, oh, it's bright yellow. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. So it has to go through these stages, and I think the earliest stage, it kind of needs the kids.
Yeah. And I think, because bracelets, we have like the slap bracelets and everything, I think bracelets are always, like a different kind of bracelet's always going to be a fad, because it's an easy thing that you can wear that can be unisex if it's weird enough, right? And people can immediately see, oh, they're hip.
The cool thing about a bracelet is it's an accessory that's big enough that it's easily, so like a ring or something, or like a necklace can get hidden by a shirt, or if it's outside, it's like, oh, you just get tangled in it. A bracelet is big enough to see and notice, but small enough not to be in your way. Yeah. So it's like the perfect accessory. Yeah.
And I think we should talk about the fact we're not really going to get into like clothing in this, because I feel like that can be a separate video, but like it is
object-based.
Yeah. And I think the bracelet thing, I think it's important that it can be unisex, because all the other fads about clothing are usually geared toward one direction or the other.
They're gendered because that's the nature of fashion.
Yeah. All right. Shall we talk about Beyblades?
We can talk about Beyblades because
Beyblades are the shit.
Beyblades, just like Livestrong bracelets, I felt that my getting into them was a little bit late, but still very much in the range. So I remember really wanting Beyblades.
Beyblades were so great. And I love Beyblades.
The great thing about Beyblades is because they were interesting and new, but at the end of the day, it was a top that went really fast.
Yeah.
And so it's always going to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Like if I had a Beyblade right now, I would...
You would let it rip.
I would let it rip.
Let it fall.
But,
dude, I wish I had my Beyblades right now. My mom got rid of my Beyblades, and I have never forgiven her in classic child fashion.
I think I only ever had 2 or 3 Beyblades.
I had so many fucking Beyblades.
But I very distinctly remember the first one that I had was black with red accents, and it had a black dragon on it.
Nice.
And I remember going to the store. I don't remember if this was still Target at this point. It might have been Ann and Hope or Bradley's before Target moved in. But I remember going there, and there were like none left.
Yeah.
And the only one left was this one where the box was like ripped, and it was like actually missing some of like the switch out parts.
I remember finding Japanese ones too.
Yeah.
And being like, and it was like all weird and didn't fit right and like.
But I ended up actually just getting the ripped, like screwed up one.
Yeah.
Just because like I had to have it, and it was like missing, like I don't know, some of the accessories.
Well, no, the thing that I loved about them, right? Because it like geared into like what I love because I love collecting, but also that you could mix and match them.
Right.
Right? That it was like, oh, you need this weight, and this weight's better in that one.
What's the name of those, the little figurines? They were out around the same time, and they were like little robot guys, like this big, and the head, and the arms, and the body, and the legs were all different pieces, and it was a game, and they each had numbers, and there was dice in it, and like so you made your own thing.
I vaguely know what you're talking about, but I don't know if I ever played that.
Megabots or Megabots?
Oh, that sounds vaguely familiar.
Megabots, Megabots? Can I look this up?
You can look it up, but Beyblades. I need to talk. I have so many thoughts about Beyblades. Beyblades are my shit. I had so many of them. I love they each had the different, like, not only do they have like different bases, the different like battle tops, the different weights, and then they had the little chip that you put on that had like the character, right? And I just remember being like, it was like so good because I was on that like it was like 4th or 5th grade when I was really into it, and I was like right on that precipice.
So was this like 1998, 99? Is that correct? Maybe 2000.
Maybe 2000s. I don't know. What would I have been, like 11 or something? It was probably like 2000, 2001.
Okay.
But like it was right on that precipice where I was like still young enough to like let my imagination go wild a little bit, and so I remember being like, well, it's doing better because it's like it has this thing.
It has a tiger on it. I mean, it's like Jackie Chan Adventures, like the talisman. You have like the talisman in it, and it's like giving that power.
But it was also like, I feel like in general, like I'm interested in if I got them now, how much difference the mixing and matching the weights and things actually made. Because I remember being like, I've made the best one. Like this one's awesome and it's so much better. But I wonder if it was really any of that different.
I mean, there's obviously some difference.
Yeah.
And there's obviously better and worse. Also depends on, I'm sure, how fast you do this. So pulling it fast with a certain weight is better. Like, you know, it depends on the technique mixed with the weight, mixed with the shape of it, mixed with the shape of the thing that you're trying to do it in. Because I know that some of them were like these Colosseum dome, like inverted dome things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, guess in general, the trigger, like the pulling mechanism, they had different ones of those too. So that was also customizable. And so like, I mean, it was cool because it was cool by itself. It was cool just doing it on your table. It was cool like even like doing outside for certain ones if it was good enough. And then the fact that it was a battle mechanic, and then like
you gotta have the battle mechanic,
dude. I remember I had this big like salad bowl that I stole from my mom. Right? It was and I made it into like a battle arena, and it had like a center thing, and I brought it to school, and I remember like we had like a huge group of people like around playing Beyblades and battling each other, and it was the shit. I love Beyblades. I'm gonna buy some.
Like Beyblades. In the back on the side of the school.
I think we might have bet on them. I think we might have bet on some of it.
What would we bet?
I think we bet like parts. Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh man, good stuff. I love 5th grade.
We're still recording.
Okay. I know. So, Keith.
Yes.
Scooters?
Scooters. Razor scooters.
Razor scooters specifically. Yeah, you're not getting any of that other bullshit.
Yeah. I remember razor scooters.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yep.
Never had one.
You didn't?
No. Was never the most athletic child.
Yeah.
Was never the most coordinated on moving things child. I don't know how to ride a bike.
I forgot about that. That's
I did it one time, but that was a long time ago, and it wasn't well enough to retain.
and the old adage is a falsehood.
Yeah. I am the exception to the rule. I forgot how to ride a bike. So, yeah, so I always was interested in them, never enough to partake in them, but this is going to sound really weird.
Yeah.
I was always obsessed with the wheels.
Interesting.
I always wanted
Well, you could switch them out, couldn't you?
Right, but I just liked the look of those translucent...
They were cool.
They were like these ice blue or like red,
Yeah.
you know...
I think red was the classic.
Semi-translucent wheels, and I was like, I want those wheels. I just want
You were
to
weird
have
from the start.
them.
Dude, so, you know, it's interesting because, I mean, I obviously wasn't a very athletic child either, but it was like in that crossroads of like, it's Christmas, I want to be cool and have one. My parents are hopeful maybe it will make me more active. So
That dad, he'll get out and play now.
So I played for about maybe a couple days. Then it went in the basement and didn't get used very often.
So, an interesting story. I don't know if it was a razor scooter because this was several years after the whole craze, but still when scooters are very popular for children.
I mean, some people still love them. It's like...
Right, no, but so, I don't know how long ago this ago, but my brother was big enough to not belong on it. It was my little cousin's scooter at a skate park. Long story short, he broke his ankle. So...
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Remember, kids, use your own style scooter.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Bop It?
Can we talk about Bop It?
Bop It was a very interesting thing.
So I'm gonna immediately derail Bop It.
Okay.
Because I never had Bop It.
You never had Bop It.
But what I did have was Torx.
What the fuck is Torx?
It was a copy of Bop It.
Okay.
And it was like a yellow thing, and it had these arms like this, and you twist and bent it. But the best part about the Bop It was the voice.
Okay.
So...
Well, the Bop It or the Torque It?
The Torx.
Okay, you said the best part of the Bop It was the voice.
Oh, well, I lied. The best part of the Torx is the voice.
Okay.
Because I do this thing time to time, and Caitlin is always like mad when I do it, and then one day I found the thing in my
Caitlin being
room,
his girlfriend, if you're a new listener.
and it made the sound. She's like, that's where that came from? And so it's like, twist me to begin game. I am Torx. And then when you shut it off, he goes, okay, maybe later. So I will do that. So time to time I'll be like, okay, maybe later in conversation. And so one day we found that in my back room, and she's like, I thought you just like were weird and made it up. That's actually from something.
That's really funny.
I am Torx. Twist me to begin game. I swear to God, that's exactly the cadence.
That's great. Did it have music like Bop It did?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was.
Oh, but the idea of those were really fun, and the commercials were great. I had Bop It, but I also the one I remember was Click It, which was I had. Like,
it was a little,
It was a little one, and that was nice because you could like keep it in your pocket. That was fun. We do that on the bus sometimes.
Okay.
Good stuff. He's looking that up. In the meantime, I'm gonna mention Mage Nights, and now this is not a Mage Night. Oh, he's looking at the Torquies. Oh, Torques.
The future is now.
Or back in the day. Oh,
is this a commercial?
I am Torque. Twist me to select game. Game 1.
Well, that was illuminating. I didn't know about the torquing. That's what it's called, right? Torque?
Torque.
Yeah, okay. Alright, so to switch things up, let's talk a little bit about DDR.
Okay.
Was this ever part of your livelihood?
Yes. Not a lot of people know this, but I am a professional DDRer.
I wish to God you were.
So, yeah, there was an arcade down the mall. What was it called? Dream Machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dream Machine.
Dream Machine was cool.
It was, as with a lot of stores down the mall at the end of this era, in the early 2000s, it would go out of business. You know, we have two models, so they're across the street from each other. It would stores would be in one, go out of business, go to the other, be out of business. There'd be a lot of switcheroo. And Dream Machine was one of those places that would just go back and forth a couple times, and then it disappeared finally.
Yes.
And they have, you know...
Now we have the history of Dream Machine. Tell me about DDR.
The whole rig. They had the whole rig there. I have played DDR. I'm not the kind of person that was super into it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I liked. Is the dump truck game.
There's a dump truck game? Where you get the coin?
It's the ladder that's going like this, and you time it, and it goes... I was the best at the dump truck game.
Yes, and everybody knows the dump truck game, one of the greatest fads of our generation. I will say, as far as me with DDR is one of those things where I really wish I was good at it. I'm not good at it, and so therefore I did not do it very often. But man, if I was good at DDR, that'd be the shit. That'd be cool shit. Also, that did remind me, and this is stretching it as far as back in the dayness, but a fad that we hadn't even thought of until now is Guitar Hero and music games.
Yeah, Guitar Hero and Rock Band?
Yeah.
That was...
As evidenced by the drums down there, I believe. Yeah, that was definitely that was early high school.
Yeah. So you definitely had that, and we definitely played that all the time.
Oh my god, that was the shit.
I think actually I have it too, but it's like secondhand.
Yeah. I don't want to get that deep into that, but you just remind DDR, it's in the same sort of genre.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's exactly the same, except you use your fingers instead of your feet.
I miss Guitar Hero so much. Alright.
I mean, you still have it.
I know, it's right there.
So we're saying we're doing a Guitar Hero Let's Play?
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this guy.
What he pretends to be.
What he pretends to be. So this guy is a HeroClix. Which is a spin-off or a subgenre of Mage Knights. And
is it actually affiliated?
Well, come on, look, it's the same. I'm pretty sure, they're affiliated. It's like in cooperation with it. So Mage Knights was this cool thing, and
I think WizKids, I think
it's debatable whether Mage Knights is a fad. It was a fad certainly with the geeky crowd, but it didn't have the crossover appeal of something like Livestrong.
Basically, what this is, it's a table kind of game. And you have this piece of paper that you fold out and it has this grid and this maps of different environments. Usually it's double-sided, it's like a different environment on each. And you have these characters, they're usually not this big, they're usually about an inch and a half tall or whatever. And they have these platforms that have these inner wheels that spin, and there's a window. I probably can't see it at all.
Well, we can cut to some B-roll.
Yeah, and they have these values, these different numbers, different stats, and as they take damage, you click a certain amount, and they have different stats.
It's kind of like the next evolution of I was gonna say DDR, but I meant D&D. But yeah, I mean, so there was a whole. And
also, I will say it's like Magic the Gathering. Figurine.
I have you now.
You know, one of the things we talked about when we were setting this up was that Magic the Gathering, even though I don't think it ever got the mass appeal that a lot of these other things did, it kind of set in motion so much of this stuff.
Yeah.
As far as, Pokemon was the real first huge fad, I feel like, right?
That was the world domination kind of thing.
And especially, it's interesting to even call that a fad anymore, given we're this many years later. The most recent Pokemon games sold crazy, ridiculously well, and that's not even talking about Pokemon Go, which was the second fad within a fad.
Yeah.
And we're not going to go into Pokemon that much here because it's worthy of its own video.
Right.
But the card game basically just took Magic and rebranded it to a degree, and then we had card game after card game that came probably because of Pokemon.
Right. We entered that realm where just trading card games were everything.
Yeah.
And everything had to have a trading card.
Yeah.
So, there was Pokemon, there was Digimon, there was Dragon Ball Z, there was innumerable things that no one's ever heard of. I remember this game, I think it was called Rift. I spent about an hour trying to find it before we recorded. And I couldn't find it. And I never have played it with anyone, nor really spoken to anyone about it. And it was basically Magic the Gathering, but it was kind of steampunkish, but it was futuristic. And I remember the back of the cards was black, and it had blue, shiny blue, not shiny, but bright blue writing, and all these futuristic environments and robots and stuff.
And you were just attracted to it mostly because of the artwork itself.
Yeah, and I think that was the case with a lot of these.
Yeah.
was like I was so enamored by the art of the world and like how it's so interesting and unique. So like Magic cards, I played a little bit, but not a lot. Mostly I just collected and I looked at the pictures. Like I just loved having these objects that I could look at and imagine. Like even things like the tech deck, you know, it's an art object that you can carry around, and just having something like this, you know, transforms this tabletop into a whole new world.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly you have obstacles and like the world is miniaturized in this.
It's gonna be so hard to do this show and not seem like grumpy old men, because it is. I mean, also like that idea of carrying around a piece of art reminded me of also like comic books, and obviously like that was like you have a whole little collection of art that you like and you carry with you, and now it's like. Do people have that nearly as much? Because they're carrying around a little thing of art, sure, that has infinite art on their phone.
Yeah.
But they don't have this tactile thing that I feel like carrying around a comic book or carrying around a tech deck or trading cards, which I'm not saying these things are gone.
Right.
But like...
But this is a tool, you know.
Yeah.
The trading card with the art is a tool for your imagination.
Yeah.
It is an art object that you can look at and it creates a world in your mind.
Yeah.
You know, you are... And as we can discuss, you know, most of the time we're playing these games alone by ourselves. You have the two decks on either side. You have the two sides of characters. You know, you're using these things to get someplace, and spatially you're imagining something in your head. So when you have that series of artwork where you're looking at the cards and they line up and they have this sort of like very loose mythology, you create the mythology yourself and it becomes this different thing.
I think that was a lot of the appeal of things like Mage Knights and the ones that weren't Pokemon and Digimon stuff, where you didn't already know the world. It was like
there's no direct narrative.
Yeah, and you have no idea. You're like, you could get a thing of Mage Knights and you have no idea what you're gonna get, and it could be this really crazy looking guy and you have no idea anything about him. You get to create that for yourself. And I'm sure there's some books or whatever that tells you about it.
Right.
But most people didn't involve themselves. I'm interested also, you talk about how playing against yourself, right?
Yeah.
I want to know if we're losers or if that's somewhat common, because the thing is, we would play stuff like Yu-Gi-Oh! With other people, because that was sort of the simple thing. The show kind of taught you how to play it to a certain degree.
Right. I mean, as Pokemon transitioned out of being the big thing and Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of took over, I remember very distinctly, like, I liked Yu-Gi-Oh! And I definitely played Yu-Gi-Oh! But I was still, like, trying to hold on to Pokemon. Yeah. Even though I didn't play Pokemon, for me, it was the world. It was the attitude of Pokemon that I latched on to.
I mean, I think the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's interesting. I wonder if older people actually play the Pokemon trading card game. I've played a little bit of it now because I wanted to actually see what the fuss was about, because I collected it for so long. And that really was, I feel like Pokemon was about collecting and about trading. It was really a trading card game. Right. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was not that much about trading. It was about battling. Yeah. And I liked that. Pokemon cards
are things that you kept in the 3x3 pages in plastic in a binder. Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the thing you kept in a box.
Yeah.
There's the hole back here.
Yeah, and you'd play it, and I think that was a nice thing to grow up with, as far as, now we're being strategic a little bit. But I do think a lot of the stuff that I would play against myself were the things that weren't like Yu-Gi-Oh! That were a little bit more complicated, and that are maybe a little less popular, and so nobody else really knew about them, and no one wanted to, like, sit down and be like, let me teach you how to play this thing. You know, like, I remember my thing sort of like Rift, not as off-brand as Rift, but that nobody else seemed to have was... I don't know if you remember, there was one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! About dungeon dice monsters, where it was, they played a different game, but with some of the same creatures.
And they came out with it.
Yeah, they came out with it, and I had it, and literally no one else did. And I was so excited, because it was like a whole new Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing.
I'm trying to remember, so can you remind me of what they physically were? Because I feel like I might have had a little bit of it.
It was a thing that came with different, you made a maze kind of thing, right? Okay. And they had to move you had like actual creatures. It was more like Mage Knights to a degree, right? It was sort of like somewhere between Mage Knights and Yu-Gi-Oh!
I don't think I had it.
Yeah.
I think that's after, because that came at the end of the show. I think that was after, for me, I was over Yu-Gi-Oh! For the most part.
Well, it was like, even people who liked the show, like, it wasn't like in all the stores. Or like it was like I ordered it online. You know,
It was kind of really ordered online.
Yeah. Toywiz.com, I believe.
It was the thing that they were trying to save the show with.
Yeah.
It was, you know, in this era of fads, which the 90s and the late 90s, early 2000s really was this sort of like when having fads was a fad.
Yeah.
It was
it's interesting.
everything.
And I'm interested to see how much that's, I guess, our point of view versus, like, is that still a thing? Because I can't point to things, like, I feel like even if not as a kid, you can point to Furby, you can point to Beanie Babies, Tamagotchi. You know these things were in the mass consciousness.
Right.
Like, that are, like, even if, like, at people our age knew that these things were huge. I can't name that many things like that right now.
Right.
I mean, like, there are things for sure, and, like, things like, I mean, there are things that, like, sell like hotcakes and stuff.
I think that the biggest thing is, once you have the iPhone, even the kids have it and want it. Or, like, that becomes the object of social envy. That becomes the thing that unlocks, instead of this unlocking your imagination, or the pictures and the art unlocking your imagination, you just have the key to the internet, and you kind of don't need it as much. Like, I don't want to sound like a crazy old librarian, but like it's kind of what it is. It's like this is replaced by the internet.
I don't know that it's replaced by it, because I mean,
in social,
I think it's
social consciousness. It is.
I mean, to a certain, I mean, I don't know if that's true with elementary school kids though. Like, I'm sure there's still toys and things they all want, but I think
YouTube, kids watch YouTube.
Yeah, I mean that's true too. I mean, I don't know. My niece is only 2 right now, so we'll see where that goes. But I think it's that it replaces it as far as the overwhelming thing, right? Is that it's hard for people to sort of congregate around one idea of what's cool when there's so many infinite possibilities now. There's so many different...
It's an oversaturated market.
Yeah, so many different directions you can go in. And it is really interesting that it was such a big... And I think it was in some ways because of Pokemon. Because they knew things could hit...
critical success.
Yeah, because they knew things could hit that hard, they kept trying.
Right.
And the most important one in everyone's hearts is the yo-yo ball. Which I don't know if there's an actual name for it, but all I know is that when I was a kid, I had a yo-yo ball.
That's all he knows what it's like.
It was a squishy ball with like little spikes on it, and it had a string, not a string, but like a gooey cord.
Connective tissue.
And it there was like a ring around your thing that was like squishy, and it was all squishy and cool, and you would bounce, and you'd throw it, and it was terrible at yo-yos, but it didn't matter because you do tricks, and you squeeze it, and it looks like a testicle, and it has this liquid inside of it that apparently was dangerous, so they stopped selling them or something, they were banned from our school because people were crazy. And I was really sad when they stopped having those in CVS.
I am the master of the yo-yo ball. Look into my balls and see the light. Oh! Bye-bye, orange. Some of these don't want to turn on. Ahai, Sasquanana, Hoindanana, Haishaha, Hoindana, Hai, Hai, Ho, Hai, Hai,
Ruined my life. I talk about this all the time. Have I ever talked about this with you?
I guess.
I talked about this like a week ago with somebody.
No, I've heard this before.
Yes. Also, Furbies are scary and I never liked them.
So I had a Furby. I had the black Furby with the white, but more importantly, I had the Poochie. I don't recall if I asked for the Furby or not, but I had it. But I know I definitely asked for the Poochie. But the thing about both of those things is, the Poochie, by the way, was a robotic dog. It was silver, had blue ears. They had no off switch.
Was Poochie cuter?
It was like a robot dog. Yeah, like it looked like it was meant to look like a robot. It wasn't fuzzy. It was like metal and plastic.
Yeah.
So they didn't have no off switch. The whole thing was they're supposed to be like as if they were alive. So what they had was light sensors on their heads, and to make them go to sleep,
I almost managed to hang him. I've been trying to hang him. Hey, look, I did it. He's hanging. I'm evil. Okay, sorry.
So to put Poochie to sleep, you put him in the closet.
Yeah.
And I just remember at night trying to go to bed as a kid, and out here in the closet, mean, the whole thing was like, it was like they wanted attention. So they would like call out like at certain periods and like slowly less and less. And like, I think mine was defective.
Yeah.
Because at certain points, like, it just would not stop. Like, I remember, like,
You had a very
going
needy Poochie.
crazy. And, like, it would not stop going. And the same thing with the Furby. Like, I forget what that one made sounds, but I think my
didn't,
Furby
like,
stopped
chirp or
working.
something.
Yeah, I think my Furby stopped working kind of early. But,
Thank God for that. They're weird. I don't like them.
but yeah, I remember those both very distinctly.
All right, I'm pretty happy with this. I think we talked about a myriad of things. There's more to talk about, but I think we'll maybe do a part 2 at some point.
I think we'll definitely do part 2. There's so much more. I mean, even just on, you know, our own lives, even our own early lives.
Yeah.
There's just so much more to revisit.
Yeah.
There's so many things.
We're going to talk about some DComs, going to talk about some boy bands, talk about some Britney Spears, because I know you love that.
To be honest,
Yeah.
I don't remember what song it is, but there was a Britney Spears song. I think it was Toxic.
Oh, yeah.
That
That's a
actually
little bit later.
was kind of into.
Yeah, Toxic's interesting. I like Toxic.
It just has interesting instruments.
Yeah.
Instrumental to it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching the first episode.
Or no, you know what? No thank you. No thank you for watching.
But I will say thank you for subscribe. So please subscribe to our channel.
Subscribe without watching. If you have the gall to watch this video before, or any other video, before you subscribe to this channel, how dare you, sir or madam?
You should have known just by our logo that we were cool. Alright, thanks guys. You know, let us know fads we might have missed or new fads. I'd be interested in some of those too. And maybe we'll get your girlfriend Caitlin, you know, on some of this sometime. But thank you guys for watching the first episode of Back in the Day. And if you have any ideas for how we can end this show off with like a quippy phrase, let us know, because we don't have any quippy phrases. Also, check out our other videos, and they'll be all linkedified. And we'll do an end slate probably. Or they're on his face, who knows. Alright.
The Nerf Turbo Crusher Football. This turbocharged spiraling ball has crush and rebound hypergrip foam that squeezes to fit your hand. In other words, it's easy to catch, one-handed. Don't you get it? It's Nerf.
It's Nerf. It didn't say Nerf for nothing. That's very. I feel so unsatisfied. We need to do a whole video on 90s commercials.
Because there were some great ones.
Yeah.
There were some great ones. I cannot talk at all.
I'm excited to talk.
There were some great ones. I can words.
He can words. I'm excited to talk about Toonami at some point.
Oh.
Toonami will be good.
That is an episode and a half. Toonami. Man, that was my life.
Yeah.
Honestly, Toonami is the reason that I am the person that I am. Like, that sounds ridiculous, but like, in a very significant way, it's true.
I'm glad to hear it. Alright.
Don't tell me that's not the case for you.
Oh, it completely is. Alright, thank you guys so much. We'll check you next time.